When Mike Tripp presented Professor Murdock with a gift, she refused to accept it at first because school regulations prohibited faculty from accepting anything from students. But when he showed her that it was an augmentation pill, she was tempted to bend the rules. Unfortunately, Kevin interrupted them and explained that it wasn't an augmentation pill at all and could actually hurt her. As it turned out, Kevin may have overestimated Professor Murdock's restraint. She was mesmerized by the pill and couldn't take her eyes off it. She hadn't made any progress in 6 years and was tempted to swallow the pill right now to see if it could help her improve her physical and cognitive health. "Kevin, you must have misunderstood what Mike said," Professor Murdock murmured. "I can clearly see that there's nothing wrong with this pill." "What did you just say?" Kevin looked at Professor Murdock blankly. "Did you hear what Professor Murdock just told you? You're so full of crap. With all that stuff you were saying earlier, it turns out you don't know anything. You're just pretending to be some kind of expert to get a little attention. How pathetic," Lionel mocked Kevin openly. "We all came out here to have fun tonight. Don't let Kevin spoil our good time," Luther said to his classmates as he poured himself another glass of wine. "Come on, everyone. Have another drink and unwind." "Some people have no idea what they're talking about," Mike sneered at Kevin. Then he turned and looked at Professor Murdock. "Go ahead and take the pill right now. Don't let Kevin's jealousy stop you." She nodded in agreement and swallowed the pill. Kevin could only sigh when he saw this. He turned around and walked out of the room. Out of boredom, he headed to the restroom to freshen up. Kevin just didn't understand what was wrong with people nowadays. Why didn't anyone listen to his advice? On his way back to the VIP room, Kevin saw Mike standing by the stairs with Luther and Lionel. They seemed to be discussing something in a low voice. Out of curiosity, Kevin quietly walked over and listened to them. "You really were impressive, Mike. Kevin had to be humiliated after that." Luther flattered his friend. "Impressive my butt. He's just a nobody. It didn't take any effort at all to put him in his place," Mike bragged. "And what the hell was that wine? Do you realize that this dinner cost me over $375,000? "Are you kidding? That's outrageous," Lionel asked as his eyes grew wide. Based on what his family had given him for living expenses in Chicago, the meal had cost about 10 years of his allowance. "I was planning to drop a few thousand on the dinner at most, but I never expected the Whistler Hotel to be this expensive," Mike admitted as he pulled out a pack of gum. "Dinner's almost over. If I don't pay the bill, I'll be up the creek and this will have all been for nothing." Luther thought for a while and then his face lit up. "Hey, Mike, I think I got an idea. I just don't know if you'll be too embarrassed to try it. If you have something to say, just say it. Don't keep us waiting," Mike said impatiently. "It's simple. Lionel and I will keep toasting you. After a while, you'll pretend to be drunk and pass out. The class is full of rich people who can afford to foot the bill," Luther said proudly. "What do you think?" "It's true they can afford it, but who's carrying around $300,000 on a school night?" Mike replied as he popped his chewing gum. "But isn't Penny here?" Lionel continued. "Her family's loaded. $300,000 would be a drop in the bucket for her. If you're out of it, I'm sure she'll help out." Mike was worried about this plan and wondered out loud. It wouldn't be a great idea to trick her like that. He really didn't want to make a bad impression on Penny. "No problem, Mike," Luther continued. "If Penny helps you pay the bill, you can use it as an excuse to get closer to her. You could even connect with her online to arrange to repay her and to get to know her better." Mike got really excited by this idea. He slapped Luther on the back and said, "I like the way you think. It's a good thing I brought you two guys along." When Kevin heard this, he quickly headed back to the VIP room. As he got to the door, Penny was walking out. Kevin came up with a plan of his own. As Penny brushed against him, he used the light touch that he'd learned about in the secret guide and took her phone and wallet. "Let's see what Mike does now." Kevin smirked as he slipped the items into his jacket. With all his posturing, he isn't really that strong. Let's see him show his true colors. When Kevin returned to his seat and sat down, Mike and his two buddies were just walking into the room. Luther and Lionel really put on an act for everyone. After a few glasses of wine, Mike slumped onto the table and pretended to be drunk. When Kevin saw this, he raised an eyebrow and thought to himself, "Not a bad performance. It's a shame this guy didn't go into acting." After a while, everyone was pretty full and decided it was time to head home. "What the heck? Is Mike drunk?" one of the students commented. "No way. Mike can handle it," Lionel replied while he also pretended to be a little tipsy. He walked over to Mike and nudged him a few times. "It's late, Mike. Wake up. Time to go." But Mike didn't move. "Wow, Mike's really out of it." Lionel shook his head slightly as he called over to the server. "What's the damage?" "Sir, the total comes to $375,000, including $300,000 for the wine. We gave you a discount on the price as well as the service fee, so the total comes to $360,000. The waiter smiled as he asked, "Will that be cash or credit?" "Could you please repeat that? How much is the bill?" Lionel was a little confused. $360,000 after the discount, of course. The waiter answered as he gave him a very professional smile. The students were all in shock when they heard him say that. Even though they were all from wealthy families, they'd never squandered their money like this. Who could? "I can't believe we ate that much." Lionel shook his head as he continued to put on a show for everyone. "I promised Mike I'd help him with the bill, but that's a lot of money." It was clear to all of them what Lionel was getting at. He was looking for someone to pay the bill because he couldn't afford to cover it. They all looked at each other and wondered what to do. The students could help pay, but Mike was supposed to be treating them. Why should they have to contribute anything? Then Luther suggested, "Kevin used his Supreme VIP card to open up the room. Why don't we just put the charge on his account? Then Mike can settle with him tomorrow." They all agreed that this was a good plan. After all, if that really was Kevin's VIP card, then he could afford it. If it wasn't, then it didn't matter anyway. Kevin almost laughed out loud when he heard what they were saying. What kind of people are they? He wondered. First they kept mocking me, and now they can't afford to pay for dinner and they want to put it all on my card? Pretty shameless. The server saw what was going on but continued to be professional and polite. "I'm sorry, everyone. While VIP members enjoy a lot of privileges, they must settle all debts before leaving." That certainly got the room to quiet down. Nobody had that much on them. Would they even be allowed to leave the room? Although Professor Murdock wanted to help Mike out, she couldn't get that much money together in such a short time. "Why don't I pay the bill?" Penny suddenly offered. They all looked over at her and started to relax when they realized she was going to help them out of this mess. But Penny didn't pay any attention to their whispering. She casually reached into her bag to get her wallet. After all, $300,000 wasn't that much money for her. Plus, it was just a temporary loan. Penny's face froze as she rooted through her bag and discovered that her wallet and even her phone were missing. "What's going on? I know I put them in my bag," she wondered. Because she'd been taught how to handle problems, Penny was able to remain calm, even though she was starting to panic. She really has good self-control, Kevin thought as he watched her empty her purse onto the table. The students started to get nervous when they realized they might have to cover the bill after all. It would cost at least $5,000 each. Finally, Mike decided to stop pretending to be asleep. He stood up and announced, "I'm sorry, everybody. I just had a little too much wine and accidentally fell asleep." Then he yawned and said to them, "It's getting late. Why don't you all head home? I'll take care of the bill. See you in class." Mike knew that he couldn't keep pretending or his classmates would get angry with him and the whole thing would have been for nothing. "What's the final bill?" Mike asked the server as he pulled out his phone. When he found out the cost, Mike looked a little worried, and then he commented, "That's not very expensive. I don't have that much on me right now, but don't worry, I'm calling my dad to straighten things out." Mike phoned his father, Wyatt Tripp. He was a well-known import-export tycoon in Detroit. "Dad, are you busy now? Can you send me $400,000? Mike bit the bullet and asked him, I'm treating all my classmates to dinner this evening. He figured it was better to be scolded by his father than to be embarrassed in front of his entire class. How much do you want? His father asked him. As expected, Wyatt started to freak out. Do you think money grows on trees? Didn't I just give you that much a few days ago? How could Wyatt Tripp not go ballistic? He'd worked his entire life to build up his business, and now his son was just giving his money away. Mike was frustrated by his father's response. He'd only gotten in this situation because he was trying to get elected student leader. If his father wasn't willing to help, he might have to tell his classmates the truth. What are you talking about, Dad? School's going great and my teachers are fantastic, Mike told his father, laying it on thick. It's definitely a serious program. What the hell are you talking about? When did I ask you about school? Wyatt shouted into his phone. I don't give a crap if you like the place or not. Don't worry, Dad, I'm doing great, he continued. But it would really help if you could transfer some money into my account. I'll transfer $200,000, but remember this, I don't want to hear a word from you about money for another year, Wyatt roared at his son. With a kid like you, I'll have nothing left to retire on. After Wyatt hung up the phone, Mike forced a smile and looked at his classmates. My dad can be a little long-winded, but the money's on the way. A moment later, Mike's phone vibrated and he knew that his father had transferred the money. Damn it, I'll only have about $200,000 left after I pay the bill, Mike muttered to himself as he handed his card to the server. While they were all waiting for their rides to pick them up, one of the students asked Professor Murdock, How do you feel after taking the augmentation pill? No change so far, maybe it hasn't taken effect yet, she replied softly. They were all stunned to hear that. By now, she should have started feeling something. They started wondering if Kevin may have been right after all. Lionel changed the subject. Wow, $360,000 just for dinner. Mike sure is a great guy. They knew that Lionel was just complimenting his friend, but it certainly was true. Mike had done what he'd promised. He was relieved to see that he finally had the class's approval. It had been a successful evening and they'd all gotten to know each other a lot better. But as they were leaving, nobody said anything to Kevin. I'll give you a ride back in a few minutes if you want. I only had a sip of wine and I'm in pretty good shape, Kevin said casually to Professor Murdock. I can tell you've been doing some advanced training, Professor Murdock remarked. Kevin finished his coffee and then gestured for the professor to head out to the parking lot with him. He was wondering if she was beginning to see through his facade.
Hi, Kevin here. If you're wondering what happens next, then stay tuned on the Pocket FM Universe channel for more episodes.